Hi, this is Richard Murray with another session of Parking Lot Theology. I want to talk to you today about the one virtue, the one aspect of God that I think it's so important that we clutch and cleave to in our hearts. And it's simply this, that God, above all else, is heroic in nature. He does not act unworthily. He is there to rescue, to save, to heal, to fix things, to bless things, to restore things to their intended fullness of purpose. He is my hero, and even though sometimes I forget that fact, and sometimes I neglect that fact, and sometimes I get dull to that fact, whenever I'm in a good place in the Spirit, whenever I'm able to discern His presence and feel His presence in my heart and in my thoughts, it's always my first impression of that sensation is always that He is heroic. And I think that today, sometimes we lose that, and people think it's silly to think of Jesus as heroic. I'm telling you what, He is nothing but heroic. You know, I once was asked, somebody was saying that it's foolish to think of God as heroic. I think it's foolish not to, because if we do, we lose the sense of His rescuing nature, of His restorative purposes, of His relentless virtue. And it's not virtue that condemns, it's virtue that heals, saves, and delivers. And that's all. He operates in forms of life. He doesn't operate in forms of death. Villains operate in forms of death. But heroes operate in forms of life, the preservation of it, the giving of it, the restoration of it, the blessing of it, the fulfillment of it, the enrichment of it. And villains operate in curses. It's that simple. And that's why we know that anything that operates from a place of cursing, and those curses, some of those curses are described in Deuteronomy 28, and obviously Paul talks about it in Galatians about, the curses of the law. But anything that kills, debilitates, crushes, destroys, that's of the enemy. Whether it's your enemy flesh, or whether it's the enemy Satan, or whether it's the enemy devils. But here's the point of the thing. If we get an image of God in the core of our being, that He is a hero, that He is not just heroic, but super heroic. And we're actually called to be conquerors. And we know the Romans 8 verse, we're called to be more than conquerors. That word is actually hyper-conqueror or super-conqueror. And that's the way. And I tell you, it's easy to love heroes, all right? And it's hard to love villains, but Jesus even loved villains, all right? He loved those who, were there to kill Him, and He loved them. But even that's heroic. Even the loving of the enemy, what's more heroic than that? That may be the most heroic thing there is. So at any rate, I just encourage you to, when things seem dull and when we don't know what's going on and we're confused in God, remember this champion fact, that God is a hero and that He acts heroically. No matter how things look, there is a heroic plan behind the scenes that God has to save you in that situation, to bless you, to bring you out of that situation. So let's pay diligent heed to that fact and enjoy. I mean, I enjoy being with heroes. I mean, people like to go watch heroes speak and watch heroic singers sing and hear them lecture, just to be in their presence. And that's the thing that pulls us to them. So let's keep that heroic image of God, the goodness of God, and I think it'll just slingshot us into greater and greater interactions with Him. Thanks.